Good afternoon and welcome to NYCryptoTalk. Today's project review is going to be on Nucleus Vision, otherwise known as Ncash. Before I start this video, I am just letting you guys know that this is a project review. I will be digging into the tech, the background, and the vision behind the project. And I just wanted to preface this that I will not be talking about any of the recent fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the FUD that has been going on for the project. I am not letting that impact my review of the project and what I think of the technology. I know a lot of things in the past couple of days has been very heated with Nucleus Vision, and I'm trying to avoid any language that surrounds that item. So I will not be talking about that. Please do not make any comments in relation to that. I am just talking about the technology and the scope of the project. So without further ado, what is Nucleus Vision? Well, Nucleus Vision is trying to bridge the IoT functionality with a brick and mortar business, all done via the blockchain. And what does that mean? Well, basically they have estimated that a huge portion of what the commerce that is currently going on in the United States is still based in brick and mortar. There is not as much e-commerce as we actually think there is, with companies like Amazon and eBay and the likes of other retailers that do their actual business online as well as having their brick and mortar store. But they do believe that brick and mortar is still where 90+% of the commerce is actually taking place still in the United States. So what Nucleus Vision is trying to do is bridge the gap with the IoT functionality and build it into the brick and mortar system, allowing the companies to actually see who's entering their store, what information is about that person, and basically building a profile of the person that can then use Nucleus Vision as a source of payment and an incentive profile to actually utilize the platform. So this is a interesting model on how they're going to use the platform for both purchasing, payment, incentives, new customer acquisitions, business loyalty, and other things that will drive business for the brick and mortar commerce. It is basically a customer identification system that uses IoT technology with their actual ion sensor, their ion sensor, and they build that with the blockchain, their utility token, and their neuron layer, which is an AI predictive model that allows them to build the raw data from the users, from the products, from the services that are rendered. So all of that is built into Nucleus Vision, and they do have a huge backing. They do have some great leadership. So I will, without further ado, go into the actual project. Before I go to their website's main page, their roadmap, their white paper, I would like to go through their product page because I think it's an easier way to understand the project and to move into what their vision is. So here they say the Ion Ease, which is their ion sensor. They say it's an easy adoption and a simple execution. So they plan on utilizing this electronic device to be able to bridge the gap between a brick and mortar store and their Nucleus Vision blockchain. So they say it's seamless, it's technology agnostic, no dependency on an app, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, RFID, or facial recognition. So it does not need to be based on any specific software. It does not need Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, RFID, or facial recognition, which is what most people use for these types of software. Personally, I was in a CVS a couple of months ago and got alerted by my phone, because I guess I had the CVS app on my phone, that there was a deal on something in the store. And I was actually shocked that they were able to detect my presence, most likely via Wi-Fi, and they were able to actually send me a notification. The same idea goes for Nucleus Vision. They basically want to be able to have you guys enter a store. The store will detect your presence via your phone, not from Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, RFID, but via your 3G, 4G, LTE, and IMEI information on your phone, and that will actually send the information from your phone to the ion sensor, and the ion sensor to the blockchain to the retailer back to you, so forth. And there's a long map that will show you how the data flows between the blockchain and your phone, and how you can get incentives and how you can make the payments all through the Nucleus Vision. So it's a different take on the IoT sensor and IoT realm, which I am a big believer that the technology is moving forward and it's advancing at a rapid pace. So I do think that this project, on how it's based, just going through that, and I will break it down even easier, but they basically say that the adoption is utilized through EASE, which is easy adoption, simple execution. They have been working on this since 2014. They do currently have this as a working proof of concept in 10 stores right now in India. They do plan on keeping the information secure, so obviously utilizing your phone's data to get your information on the network. All this is privileged information, so it all follows stringent telecom regulations of data access and transmission. Obviously, these are opt-in programs and services that you'll be available for. It's not going to send information without your consent. So there is some cool information on how they'll utilize this data also, like people walking by a store and so forth. Plug and play, so basically being able to just plug the device directly into the wall, and then Ion will automatically integrate with whatever kind of POS service that you have, and you can gain customer intelligence from the first instance, helping business to instantly become part of an extensive Nucleus Vision enabled network of partners. So they can share that information with other partners to gain more insights into their customers. And of course, all this goes through their platform. Remote management. So there is an intuitive control panel interface. They do have the ability to actually control all this data directly from a user interface. And they do have a server that basically keeps all this information on there. It basically reduces the amount of physical overhead that normally comes into play when it comes to this kind of data. So being able to have that information on the web, have it on the blockchain, instead of having to have a data repository where this information would normally be. Robust, so the Ion sensor is built in on a robust telecom grade hardware. It actually allows them to get a lot of information, not only about your device, but other information as well. So it is similar to like an IoT device for supply chain management, plus all the extras that have to do with identifying multiple unique ID in microseconds. So really cool platform itself. Going to their website, basically here is their main portion of their site, and they kind of give you the sale. Can you tell who entered your building, your bank, your resort, hotel, your store? So basically they're saying that they can. They're backed by the likes of Tim Draper, Indicage Partners, and QuadGen. Obviously, most people know of Tim Draper. He's one of the biggest blockchain backers in history. He's one of the most famous ones. He's one of the biggest backers when it comes to just technology in general, dating back many, many years. So obviously having someone with that experience in the investment for Nucleus Vision is a huge bump up for them, and it is always one thing to look at when you're looking into a project. And then trusted by hundreds of brands, and they go through the different brands that are actually on their list of potential partnerships or potential products that they would eventually work with, either through direct channels or through secondary channels. And then they talk about Nucleus Vision. They basically were founded at Harvard University. It is a IoT-based contactless identification system that empowers retailers to identify and better serve their customers. So here is where they're currently at. This is their phase 1, and this basically tells you what the information they've already tracked so far. They have 10 retail stores currently implementing their Ion sensor, and they have 2,600 successful authorizations, almost 2,800 recommendations sent to people. Over 108,000 unique identifications have been made by their Ion sensor, and they've now actually provided almost 2,000 offers to the people that they were actually recommended for these services. So this is what they're currently working with right now. Phase 2 is their security-based platform, and they plan on using this for residential security, asset security, commercial security. So if you are in the commercial business, you most likely have a tag that might allow you to enter or exit a site, but that doesn't always track people who might be either behind you, walking in with you, or visitors. They plan on to be able to implement a system where you can actually integrate that, where you can actually track how many people are entering a building, exiting a building, so forth. So there's a lot of cool information. Obviously, this all depends on the network that's available, and of course, obtaining that information. Nucleus Vision powered world, so this is their long-term goals of being able to integrate this kind of technology with everything from health, agriculture, cities, transportation, and smart homes. So building this ion sensor into every aspect of our lives. So these are the long-term goals. So their mantra is basically connecting the unconnected. Obviously, this has been told and said by many, basically, but they want to be able to build the individual identity and include the engagement data from that individual and build it into the Nucleus Vision platform. So what does that mean? That basically means the retailer installs the ion sensor, and then the ion sensor identifies the customers who are exiting, entering the actual establishment, and then Orbit actually sends the data over a secure layer that will actually go to Neuron, and Neuron is actually part of the blockchain, and then that will actually create a persona for the individual who walks in from the retailer store, and then the customer gets a recommendation from the retailer on purchasing and so forth. So this is kind of the short-term way of looking at it. We'll look at a little bit more complex information on the project. There are some great videos. I definitely recommend you look at these videos. The Nucleus videos actually have a much better visual representation of how the project works, so definitely recommend you guys check out their YouTube videos on their main page. And here, which is basically, the proprietary technology. So as I mentioned, there's no Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or GPS required. There's no app required, no barriers to adopt. Works with all phones, provides anonymous intelligence. So they have less hurdles to jump through to be able to actually accomplish their goals. So I would like to beg to differ because it doesn't work with all phones. It only works with smartphones or enabled phones. Basically, it will not work with old flip phones or dumb phones now that we call them. So third world countries, places where there might not be as much utilization or there might not be as much monetary value utilized by the users. Obviously, it's not going to be in every market. It's going to be more mainstream. So obviously, it also depends on the network people are on. And no barriers to adoption. I think when it comes to the security, obviously that is going to be the biggest thing, because getting the users to actually acknowledge and share information, that is going to be a barrier. Looking at their timeline, this is where they talk about how they plan on building their product. 2018 is the retail growth, and it'll break it down by quarter. Basically, they look into growing different markets every quarter and every year. Global expansion of retail in 2019, physical security in 2020, retail and physical security in 2021, and connected worlds in 2022. So looking at their full roadmap here, it says they deploy at 25 stores. So I'm not sure where the 25 stores comes in, since they mentioned 10 stores on their main site. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there, which doesn't have me overly concerned, but obviously it would be good to know the exact count. Partnerships, the coalition loyalty program, and identifying over 100,000 people, which I know that does match what's on their main page. And then Q2, they want to be able to grow their telco partnerships, have more sensors and more partnerships, dynamic pricing, more, almost 2.5 times the amount of users identified. They want to be able to scale across India in Q3, scale across Asia in Q4, and then moving into 2019, they have North America, scaling retail, physical security, implement prevention controls. This is going into the actual security and being able to theft management or loss prevention and things along those lines. And then you have 2020 deterrent controls, recovery controls, corrective controls, recovery controls. So there's a lot of information here. Obviously, it says implement recovery controls twice. I'm not sure about that one. So maybe it's a different way of recovery controls. I'm not sure. Either that or it's an error. Then they talk about things way down the line. I won't even go into the 2021, 2022, because I think personally thinking that far ahead is kind of cuckoo, but that is my own personal opinion. Going back to their main page, you see here the leadership team. The CEO and founder is from Harvard Business School. It does mention he is a Harvard Business School dropout, but obviously that doesn't mean anything because most people nowadays don't even have degrees and they're building multi-billion-dollar companies, so I do not look at that. He does have a good team behind him. The CMO is from Levi's. The executive president of retail business has experience in other fields, not really in the blockchain business. And then the CTO is from the Illinois Institute of Technology. The chief design officer is Brooks Atwood. Very interesting individual. I watched some of his TED videos before this, so interesting to watch. He is a leader when it comes to design in the world, so he's obviously a key player, I think. And out of the 40-member team, they say 9 blockchain developers, 5 data scientists, 1 IoT platform architect, 5 marketing experts, 9 engineers, and 11 operation professionals. So it's cool that they actually break that down. Obviously, the one thing that would have me concerned is out of an IoT company, they only have 1 IoT platform architect. Obviously, that is a key thing to have here in the IoT realm. So that definitely would be a little bit of a concerning thing for me, but it does seem to be a viable project, at least for the most part, and what they currently have sustaining with their 10 current live. Moving to the investors, they do have quite a bit of people behind them. Obviously, Tim Draper is one of the big people when it comes to the actual project, and he is obviously an early investor in Bitcoin, Skype, many other companies out there, blockchain companies as well. And then the rest of the investors all seem pretty well vested from the company. The advisors is where I saw a lot of people that kind of stood out for me. Obviously, the co-founder of Icon Foundation, Min Kim, the founder and CEO of Waxman PR. You guys have probably seen Waxman PR all over blockchain before. They're the world's largest blockchain PR agency. The founder at Coinsider Exchange, which was actually sold to Kraken, and an advisor to Sonam. There's also someone who is an advisor at Icon, and then the rest of the individuals on the team are experts in their field or just people who they have on their advisor team. I'm not too familiar with a lot of these people, and I won't go too much more into those. They do have good partnerships with telecommunications partners, Vodafone, Idea, Reliance Communications, as well as technology partners with Intel, Radisys, Alpha Networks, WaveNet Solutions. So they do have a good team, a good advisor team, and good partnerships, definitely. Moving to the white paper, there is some good information here that talks about the global retail industry and the sales of goods in the $1 trillion. So over the past couple of years, you can see here where it's grown from $21 trillion to over $28.3 trillion, and they estimate 70% of the United States gross domestic product comes from retail sales, and that many other countries have similar levels of consumer spending. So 70% of the United States gross domestic product comes from retail sales. That is absolutely huge, and you can see here where the actual breakdown of m-commerce, e-commerce, and offline retail is. So where I was talking about it earlier, you can see the amount of sales in billions that are still left every year, even though with the growing e-commerce, there's still a huge market for offline retail. And as I mentioned, 90% of the retail is still offline. So brick and mortar stores still account for 90%. I guess people still like that look, feel, and be able to buy things in store, which this information actually shocked me when I saw it, because most people nowadays would think everything is bought online, but I guess there is still a huge market for brick and mortar. So we haven't seen stores being sold yet. I know Toys R Us is going out of business here in the United States, and other companies have gone out of business in the past couple of years, but I guess things are still where they are when it comes to retail. It is still a booming industry. So going through the white paper, I thought there was one piece of data that was really interesting, and that was that from a Zebra 2017 Retail Vision Report, nearly 70% of retail chain decision makers are ready to make the necessary adjustments to adopt IoT solutions by 2021. So I'm not sure where they got this information, how many people they actually polled, but it is interesting to see that there is a need or a want to be able to move the retail chain into the IoT realm and have that information or that data available for them. So a nice chart that kind of talks about where we are right now and where we're moving with the retail market. They talk about 1995, where everything was brick and mortar. 2008, everything was a multi-channel, so you can buy directly from brick and mortar, directly online, or directly from m-commerce. And then cross-channel, which means that you can basically buy from all the different devices, and the e-commerce and brick and mortar were the same, and you're available to buy from the same types of retailers and so forth. And then there's omni-channel, which is basically a connected retail channel. And then the future of retail, which is where they plan on being able to vision themselves and have everything built off the retail outlet and built off their type of platform. So it's interesting to see how they want to envision the future of retail being built into the IoT realm. And as I mentioned before, some of the reasons for choosing to shop at stores is to be able to touch, see, feel, and try out items. They want to be able to take home items immediately instead of having to wait, even though places like Amazon that offer 2-day shipping, people sometimes need things immediately. They want to be able to physically return them instead of having to send it out, ship it, and they want to be able to ask questions, in-store experiences. And then there's a whole piece of information about loyalty programs, and that's where they built in this incentive model with Nucleus Vision, where basically people who are returning customers get money back, rewarded for their purchases and for being a loyal customer. And there's a lot of information that talks about how loyalty programs are a huge thing with a lot of businesses, especially retail, because most people in retail have their own rewards cards, their own model for how it works. So basically, Nucleus Vision is trying to build off that and have a global incentive model based on their platform. As I mentioned earlier, privacy and compliance is a huge piece of things, so users will have the full flexibility to give authorization or to revoke authorization for the service or particular brand. As a part of our commitment to privacy and compliance, we adopted global best practices and used blockchain features to build a regulatory compliant and transparent framework. And this talks about how they can sign up. The smart contract is enabled, but then people can then close a smart contract depending on how they want their information to be shared. Every time a new participant is on the network and they request the information from the user, they can actually choose whether or not they want that information shared. Then going back to how the compliance works for the actual information sharing over the telecommunications device, they actually talk about how their compliance framework works and how their SMS, third-party apps, other partner services, and retail applications go through their telecom service provider onto the Nucleus Vision, and then consent actually works with the individuals, whether it's either through customer email, SMS, through the Nucleus Vision server, through the telecom server, or a partner service if it's going through a third-party device or application. So it's interesting to see how they work with the compliance framework. Obviously, people are always worried that their information is out there and that it's being shared with people they do not want it to be shared with. Obviously, if you're familiar, if you're in the United States, spam calls are very prevalent. You give your email address out, we have spam. Same thing happens with blockchain. We do not want that information to be out there readily without our permission, so they want to be able to comply with it and deal with it in a correct manner, a legal manner. And that's how they have a terms and service and a compliance framework that's built around it. This is a great representation of how the Nucleus Vision solution works and the different layers that are on it. So as we mentioned before, there's the Ion, which is the actual IoT device that's placed in the store. Basically, the customer comes into the retail outlet with their handset, with their phone. That information then goes onto the Nucleus Vision blockchain and then gets sent to their orbit layer, and then the information will get translated back to the user's phone, and either the N-Cash rewards on walk-in will be triggered. So depending on if the store has a walk-in mechanism or a reward just for being at the store, that information would go to the user. Then there's the orbit, which is where the attestation occurs for the actual person. Once the Nucleus Vision, it goes onto the blockchain, basically the attestation form happens and the store gets that person's information, and then it can go to third party, the telecom, back to the consumer to get alerted of in-store giveaways, recommendations, get your authorization if you're a new user, and then that information goes to the Neuron campaign management, which is basically a huge AI model that will basically scour the blockchain to see if your information is out there already, cross-brand it with other affiliates, connect them with other people on the network, and then all that information would then go through to their universal reward exchange, and then their universal utility program is basically their Ncash wallet and the transaction summary analytics. So this is where the actual transaction information happens, the pure data when it comes to the actual solution. So here it's kind of cool where they talk about the deep learning, the blockchain, the IoT network, and how the data flows back and forth. So it's really cool to kind of understand how this information goes to the different parties, from the consumer to the outlet to the actual retailer to the bank, telecom, back and forth to the users, and so forth. Key differentiators, obviously they do toot their horns a little bit here in the white paper, which I thought was pretty interesting, but they talk about how they have groundbreaking IoT enabled customer identification. Obviously, as I mentioned, the IoT device is a traditional IoT with the telecommunications technology in there, so that is groundbreaking. Patent pending technology. They do have patents as well for multi-technology IoT sensor platform enabled by RF technology. They have a network agnostic single sign-on authentication process and a smart dynamic pricing model for the retail industry. So they do have patents that are currently pending as well. And then of course, having a product already available on the market is a huge thing. Genie and Joni is the partner in India, where they have 10 plus stores that are currently utilizing their platform. So obviously that is a huge game changer. Here's an actual graphic representation of the actual positioning versus the competitors. Here you can see consumer adoption, where it's seamless, indoor accuracy, real time, and you can see here Nucleus Vision is real time, the fastest you can get, as well as seamless. And then you see the other competitors such as Retail Me Not, Shopkick, Shopular, Macy's, and Nordstrom that have digital promotions, and probably put CVS here as well. And these are the competitors that they're currently going through right now and how they're working. So there's a GPS, Wi-Fi based, data mining, cell sites, infrastructure, Bluetooth, app download, and then you have pretty much all of those. And then it doesn't require any of these things like GPS, Wi-Fi, data mining. It's all done through the Nucleus Vision. So interesting piece of information here. Going to the data analytics that retailers can actually utilize from this platform, other than just getting the actual sales and utilizing the customer information. I thought this was interesting because I am a big data person, and I thought more information is always keen when it comes to sales. So they basically talk about how the information they can obtain from the product as well. There's walk-bys, visitors, storefront conversion, duration of being in the store, the engagement ratio if they actually purchase, repeat visitors, new visitors, the bounce rate, people that go in and leave and don't buy. So you see a lot of information here on how they can actually utilize this data. So not only are they actually utilizing this to get sales, but they can utilize this to actually understand where their sales are coming from, who's buying from them, and get a lot of data analytics on what they need to do to get better sales. The system architecture stack is pretty interesting on how it works. So there's multiple layers here. We have our brand integration stack, which is basically connects the brand with the actual Nucleus Vision blockchain, and they can use a web portal to actually access and view the customer information. You have your application stack, which allows for the Ncash transactions and the request response pairs to be available, as well as the actual rewards program. There's the software development kit, which allows for third-party apps to be built through the SDK product. The intelligence neural stack, which is where all the AI and relevant information and data models are actually collected. The telecommunications consent stack routes the customer consent information from the telecommunication operators to the actual blockchain to the consumer. The IoT sensor, which is the actual ion sensor, and it is a plug-and-play sensor that allows the identification of unique IDs. There is the SIM data infrastructure stack, which maps the IMEI information and phone information of the device to the actual Nucleus Vision blockchain. the crypto network stack, which basically transfers the tokens from the blockchain from the retailers to the customers and includes the security and identity of the individuals. And then there's the third-party apps, which is built on the software development kit stack. Below has a diagram that represents the actual customer score calculation, and this is where all the information gets translated to the blockchain and how that information is used, whether it's a retailer brand, a third party, or the telecommunications device. Here's all the information that can be relayed. It is a lot of information. I won't go through all of it, but basically can capture most of the information regarding the individuals and this information that will allow the retailers as much information as possible. And I did skip over quite a bit of things in the actual white paper just due to the fact that a lot of it is overly complicated, or just to the fact that they talk about their different layer stacks and the technology behind it, which in the general overview of the project, I don't want to go into too many details because it does get a little bit too technical, and I obviously have done my own research, and I will relay what I personally feel about the project and the tech behind it. So I didn't want to go too much into that, but the Nucleus Vision Project on the CoinMarketCap right now is at rank 96 with a market cap of $175 million and trading at 4 cents approximately. They have a circulating supply of 4 billion with a total supply of 10 billion, so it is a large quantity, obviously, but they have a very solid project when it comes to their technology. The actual utilization of the sensor that they have built is really interesting. They have a proof of concept that is currently working in India in 10 plus retail stores, and they do have the vision to be able to build that in more. I do really like the concept behind being able to get the customer information from telecommunication devices and sharing that over a shared platform, having an incentive payment system for these brands. I think it's really interesting, and I think it is definitely something that can be looked at from a retail frame of mind, because being able to get customer information and to be able to utilize that to retain customers, to figure out what their existing customer base is using and getting that data, I think their biggest hurdle is going to be mainstream adoption for the platform. I obviously think that the idea behind it is absolutely fantastic. They hit it out of the park with the project and their idea. But obviously finding a large brick and mortar store that would be able to adopt their software, if they got a big partnership, then I can see them being mainstream, moving the blockchain into mainstream retail. It is a big market, so they do have a lot of options, and they could actually gain a lot of attention. As long as they reach out to a lot of companies out there, they can definitely move into these different markets. They do plan on going from different areas, first from India, Southeast Asia, then moving to North America. So they obviously know what markets they want to attack first. So I think that is a good strategy, obviously, with Nucleus Vision to slowly get into the market. And of course, North America being one of the largest when it comes to retail. So obviously, I think they do have some time. 2019 might be a huge move for them. End of 2018 might be a big move because they can have partnerships and agreements moving in. Right now, it's a good project. Obviously, there's a lot of attention behind it. There's a lot of supporters behind it. They do have a huge community. I think the tech behind it is absolutely great. I really am a big fan of IoT devices, so I think anything in the IoT sphere is definitely something that can definitely move forward in the future with blockchain. So I definitely see Nucleus Vision being very successful. Obviously, it just really depends on when the timing is going to be right for them. I personally am not involved with Nucleus Vision. I haven't invested into it, but it is something that with the current state we're in and where they're going to be next year, there's definitely some really big moves that can be made. So obviously I'm not giving out financial advice. This is just my own personal opinion. You should all do your own research. Check into their project, check into their history, check into all the different videos that they have out there. There's quite a bit in their white paper. I couldn't really do my normal standard white paper review because it is online and it's not editable like I like to do my edits, have everything saved. Normally I'm able to work through that. That's why this white paper review wasn't as technical, and I do apologize for that. It wasn't as easy for me to be able to mark it up and then go through my markups. So I hope you guys like this. Nucleus Vision definitely is a huge project and I think has a lot of potential. So definitely check it out. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of new videos, and please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.